Young David struggled to stay on self-improvement. He would spend hours upon hours consuming all of the content he could get his hands on, but he could never stay consistent. Why, he thought to himself. He clearly was sick of his day-to-day life. He clearly wanted more. Why couldn't he just stay on task? For those of you who relate to young David, I speak directly to you. Your effort is not the problem. Your understanding of where to place it and why is. Let me explain through this concept I recently learned from a book titled How Leaders Improve by Dr. John Gates. Now, what do you think of when you hear the word ripe? Probably fruit, right? Well, keep that in mind. Today we're going to cover the acronym RIPEN and how it can shape your mind for success and navigate your self-improvement. Now I'm going to quickly explain the acronym. You can skip to the next section if you like. The timestamps are in the description. But I highly suggest you watch through it to get most from this video. So what does RIPEN stand for? R, realization. I, incentive. P, pressure. E, expectation. And N, natural inclination. Now if you're not sure what all those words quite mean yet, I'll break it down for you real quick. Realization is having the rational awareness or understanding of the need for change. Incentive is having perceived some potential benefit to making the change, and pressure is having perceived some urgency to make the changes in question. Expectation is the individual expectation that he or she will successfully make the change, and natural inclination is one's trait level openness to change. Now, ripeness, as I said, most of you will think of fruit, and that isn't entirely incorrect. When you pick out a fruit to eat, you don't want it to be unripe, where it's hard and bitter, and you don't want it to be overripe, where it's soft and mushy. You want when it's just right. Using this metaphor, substitute your mind or willingness to learn in the place of the ripeness. When you try to jump headfirst into self-improvement, a lot of people, including myself, went directly to the easy steps, the 7 things to do right now to get fast results kinds of videos. We told ourselves that we were willing to put in the hard work but needed to know what to do. Then we were given a list of very surface level actions with little to no explanation as to why we were doing them. And many of us struggled to stay consistent, and we struggled to see any kind of results, and we inevitably fell off. The reason you didn't see results is likely because you didn't have an understanding of why you were doing the things that you were told to do. Therefore, you had no real value for those actions. Now, when I was writing this point in the script, it made me think about kindergarten joke of just because someone told you to do it, would you do it? Is it really a good enough reason to dedicate an hour or two of your day to this strange and uncomfortable practice that you know little to next to nothing about, simply because some random guy on the internet told you to? Likely not. Convenience and comfort are 2 of the most prized possessions today, and no one's sacrificing something valuable without being shown what value they get in return. So, would you blindly trade your most prized possessions? Likely not. In this case, we're trying to eat the fruit before it has ripened, success being the fruit. We had not allowed ourselves to fully immerse into the proper self-improvement, philosophies and mindsets, and instead we acted on a very surface level. You kind of superficial self-improvement. The desire and motivation for something better was there, but the why was left unanswered. And again, I say because I was in the same boat. I struggled for years before I was actually able to, before I was even introduced to the importance of philosophy and understanding. So if that was being underripe, what is being overripe? Being overripe is having the understanding of the philosophies, having the understanding of the mindsets that are needed for self-improvement, but still not taking action. The key here is timing. You want to give yourself enough time to make sure you're answering the basic fundamental question of why. Why are you doing this action? What value does it bring? What does that do for you? How will your life be then? It may seem uncomfortable to ask, or maybe it seems like a waste of time, but clearly this put your head down and work mentality hasn't been working for you, and I'm going to show you why. It's hard to become successful without thinking. All successful people are thinkers. Plus, if your mind is such a powerful tool, why wouldn't you want to use it? There's a quote I really like that might help you. The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Anything else you can find in a pig or a horse. And it's true. What is the one thing that has allowed us to separate from the animal kingdom? Cognitive function. Without it, we would still be swinging on branches. If all this seems a bit easy for you, this is what philosophy is. The study of ideas. It's not some strange language that only highly intellectual beings can understand. Success itself is simply an idea. And we all have different ideas as to what it is. To reach success, all it takes is one good idea. Now that's exciting, isn't it? But if you're using the put your head down and work, grind mentality, then when are you ever taking the time to farm your ideas? Now there's significant value in the put your head down and work mentality. Don't get me wrong. It's that don't let your ideas fall silent. Strike while the iron's hot, right? Put them into play and give them a good go-round. Don't stop pushing until you've gotten some feedback. I think the issue with the message is due to the extreme spin people have placed on it. Everything in life requires balance. There's always a different balance for different things. Video games and social media, for example. The balance is fairly low, where you have little to next, and well, for most people, is to have little to none of them in their life. And this is simply because they haven't quite yet developed their philosophy, their values, their why, right? After they develop those things, the balance for video games in their life will increase. But chances are, by the time it does, they won't be interested in it anymore. They won't see it as a way of furthering their purpose, and they won't get any enjoyment out of it. Now, I know there's been a lot in this video, but here's a quick recap. How do we become consistent? By developing an understanding. How do we develop an understanding? By asking why. Here I'd like to break it down for you further for those of you who are still here. Now that the short attention span Jeffries have clicked away. If you can't tell, I used to watch Hamza. How do you ask these questions? By writing them down. The mind is a great tool, but like as many of you have probably experienced, the memory is quite unreliable. To counteract this, we'll think with paper, as Jim Rohn puts it. Write all of your answers, your ideas, and your thoughts. Journal them down in a book, a journal, a piece of paper, old envelope, an old piece of mail, like even an old receipt, anywhere that you can retrieve it later. Another way of thinking about it is your mind is a cup. When you fill it up and it can't hold anymore without being overwhelmed, you need to pour some out or drink it before you can hold any more. Writing your thoughts and ideas down allows you to pour them into another container. You're able to store them and make room for new ones. And the beauty is that you can go back and retrieve those old ones at any time. Remember how I said all it took was one good idea to be successful? Don't you think this is a much more efficient way of storing them all rather than having them jumbled up inside your mind and then forgotten? So there you have it. The unsexy, practical way to become consistent, not only in your self-improvement, but in everything you decide to take on in life. I have another video that's closely related to this one about how to journal. I believe it ties very closely into what I've just discussed here in the later part of the video. And if you're interested, I have early access to the script in the description. You could check it out, consider subscribing, and stay on task.